A common question I get. I want to write a story with multiple protagonists, so how do I do that? And I have two answers. Either you're asking the wrong question, or the answer is simply you don't. This is basically the same question as, I just bought a chisel. Now, how do I sculpt a David like Michelangelo? You're either asking the wrong question, or you don't. So much of starting out as a writer is learning the difference between flying and lying face down on the floor. The body position is the same, but they are not the same. The reason I recommend not trying to write multiple protagonists is twofold. One, it's hard, and two, it's rare. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't, but you have to have the skill level to be able to pull it off, which is why it's hard, and a lot of initial readers who will read your script don't understand how multiple protagonist stories work because they are rare, and they usually result in a pass on your script. And sure, if you can manage to pull it off successfully, maybe that gets you a little bit ahead, depending on the reader. But it takes a deep knowledge and excellent facility with screenwriting to be able to do it. But what about movies like Cloud Atlas, or Pulp Fiction, or Crash, or Sin City? Those are all multiple protagonist stories, right? Well, actually, they aren't. They are what is considered a multi-line story, meaning there is more than one story present, but they are overlapping. A lot of novels do this, but a novel is a different medium than film. Film has a hard time leading the reader or viewer through these kinds of stories without it feeling heavy-handed, and you could get away with a lot more in a novel. And an easy way to think about these kinds of films is to think of them as a collection of short films. Okay, these stories might include some of the same characters, so from one short film to the next, they might have the same characters, there might be events that overlap, but they are separate stories to begin with. Pulp Fiction is a movie that people think is a multi-protagonist story, but it's actually 3 short films that overlap one another and include some of the same characters in more than one of those 3 films. But each one of those 3 films within Pulp Fiction all have one single protagonist. So on a technical level, sure, you could say it's a multi-protagonist film, but it's not really accurate because it's not one single story. It's 3 separate stories merged into a single film. And in case you don't know, a story is about someone who wants something badly, is having trouble getting it, and they get it or they don't. And if you watch my stuff with any regularity, you've probably heard me say that a time or 2 or 43, right? But you have to understand something if you're wanting to write a screenplay for Hollywood, and that's this. 99.99999% of movies are this. Someone who wants something badly is having trouble getting it, and they get it or they don't. Someone, one protagonist. Now, are there exceptions? Well, there's always exceptions, but they are very, very rare, and they're very hard to do well. So if you're starting out as a screenwriter and you don't even know what a good story is with one protagonist, you're not going to be able to pull one off with multiple protagonists. My advice, learn to tell solid stories that are about someone who wants something badly, is having trouble getting it, and they get it or they don't. Learn to do that really well. Write a banging script that is that, and have that as your calling card script, and then get hired to write more and more movies. And one other quick reason why multiple protagonist stories are rare is that marketing people just don't know how to market them. And most of these kinds of stories end up with a cult following or people who really like the film, but trying to get the masses into the theater to see it is hard because people just don't understand it. They don't even know what they're looking at. So they go to the movies in the first place to watch a story about someone who wants something badly, is having trouble getting it, and they get it or they don't. Those are the stories they understand. And if you're going to write for Hollywood, you have to learn that the reader and the audience is always right. If you don't know about story or story structure, here's something that will help. There's a link below to that. If you want to know a little more about building better characters, watch this. If you found value, fun buttons and other links below, and when you tell a story, focus on telling a good one with one protagonist and tell a story that matters. See you later.